As a safety precaution, please be advised that the following instructions should only be conducted by an adult. The following instructional video is meant to assist customers with troubleshooting common problems that can occur with the paper shredder. If your shredder will only run in reverse but not in auto, or if your shredder is running but will not pull the paper through, or if your shredder is only shredding on one side of the feeding slot, then you could be experiencing a paper jam. There is a sensor which activates the shredder in auto directly in the center of the feeding slot. When you are ready to shred, be sure to insert all material directly into the center area in order to trigger the sensor. This especially applies to small pieces of paper and credit cards. To remove the paper jam, first locate the jam down in the feeding slot. Because the feeding slot is very narrow, the jam can sometimes be very difficult to see. Try tilting the shredder toward or away from you to get a better look down into the feeding slot. Try shining a flashlight down into the feeding slot to help locate the paper jam. To remove the paper jam, use a long, flat tool such as a letter opener or a butter knife or a pair of 5-inch long nose pliers. Make sure the shredder is turned off or unplugged while using a tool. Insert the butter knife or letter opener down into the feeding slot from the top. Try to get underneath the paper jam and lift it up and then out of the feeding slot. To use a pair of 5-inch pliers, insert the pliers into the middle of the feeding slot and attempt to grab the jam and pull it up and out of the feeding slot from the top. If the paper jam proves to be too difficult to remove using a tool, you may need to forcefully trigger the auto sensor and push the paper jam through instead of trying to pick it out. To trigger the sensor and clear a paper jam, find a greeting card like a birthday card or some other form of cardstock as well as some shredder oil. Drizzle at least 3 tablespoons of shredder oil down into the feeding slot from the top. Then wait at least 30 minutes to allow the oil to saturate the paper jam. After that time, plug the shredder back into the working wall outlet and turn the power switch to auto. Take your cardstock, insert it in the middle of the feeding slot, and push down on the card as hard as you possibly can. If the shredder accepts the cardstock and shreds it, then you have successfully cleared the jam. If your shredder is only shredding on one side of the feeding slot, then there is a paper jam on the opposite side. First attempt to pick the jam out using one of the tools mentioned previously. If that does not work, proceed to use shredder oil only on the side that is jammed. You'll need a larger piece of cardstock, for example, half of a manila filing folder, which is wide enough to trigger the sensor in the middle of the slot and extend out only to the side that is jammed. Insert the cardstock only on the side that is jammed and push down as hard as you possibly can. If the shredder accepts the cardstock and shreds it, then you have successfully cleared the jam.